My guest today has one of the greatest nicknames in sport, the Leg. I just love it. Thomas "The Leg" Morstead has been a fixture in New Orleans. He's played his whole career in New Orleans for the Saints, and recently a big change in his life has occurred, which of course I want to talk to him about. But I want our listeners to really know the person, Thomas Morstead, what he stands for, what he believes in, and the impact he's made on our younger generation and on the people that he touched every single day, who has inspired him to do so, and basically why he's one of the great guys ever in the National Football League. Thomas, welcome to Great Dane Nation, brother, and congratulations on a fantastic career so far.
Thank you. I appreciate the intro, Morten. It's pretty wild that we're doing this right now. I remember meeting you before Frank Gansz Sr.'s funeral and having a relationship with you, even really before I got to the team. And happy for your success and glad you finally got that gold jacket.
Well, let's get to Frank Gansz fairly quickly because he has been a pivotal person in both our lives. But I do want to touch on the latest change for you. You were let go by the Saints for salary cap reasons, or well, that's I think was the reason in my mind anyway. Can you put into words, because when you spend as much time as you have with one franchise and embrace the team, the city, and that way of life, the way you have done, and the way people think about you down there, can you put into words your feelings? Where are you, and where's your head at right now?
Honestly, I'm anxious to see where the next road leads. I think I had as respectful and nice a send-off as any player could ever ask for. I'm obviously very sad to be leaving. I've invested everything I can, my time, resources, into just being the best representative of the team and of the city as I possibly can be. And I'll continue to do that in the future. But I would say sad and very grateful for the entire experience. I don't know what my expectations were leading up to it, but hey, Mama. I don't know what my expectations were leading up to, being a rookie, and, I could never have dreamed the ride would have been as good as it's been. So just very grateful, and I'm looking forward to, I'm anxiously waiting to see what the next step's going to be here.
Yeah, for whatever it's worth, Thomas, I had a similar situation happen to me back in 1995, where I was let go as well by the same team you were let go from. And there was let me put it this way, my exit wasn't as jovial, or not jovial, but as amicable as yours has been. There was some animosity. It was in the early days of the salary cap. Nobody really understood it and the ramifications of it.
Yep.
I didn't feel like, a 40% pay cut was justified. And so I did go to the dark side, the Atlanta Falcons, and that created a lot of animosity too, towards the fans and so forth. But I think that's water under the bridge. I would say this, that for me, and I don't know if that's something you can use, when I started to embrace the fact that change in our lives, in our careers, are inevitable, and started to understand that change could be in some way very rejuvenating. Not that you needed that, but maybe like looking back to my career, 13 years with one team, that change was really refreshing. And it reaffirmed to me my commitment to my skill set and to wanting to be the very best, and to actually take it to a higher level, because I wanted to prove to the team I just left that they were making a mistake. I wasn't going to verbalize it too much, but I was going to show them.
Yeah.
So I would kind of put that in the backpack, and do that. Does that sound like a good plan?
It sounds like a great plan. And, look, that's a great story. I think it's kind of, I don't know. It's almost eerie how similar, the journey's been. You made a few more Pro Bowls than I did, but as far as being with one team for so long and being ingrained with that team and that city, and for it to end, I definitely, it's exciting to hear. I know that you went out and had a career year in your 14th season. And
it was a pretty special year, a couple of NFL records. And when I was told that my skills were diminishing after 13 years, I played another 12. So keep that in mind. It's there, and it's really your will and perseverance and how you approach it and how you refresh and reboot the computer, if you will. Not that it needs to reboot, but sometimes it's good to. This may be a very good time for you to take stock and take, just to kind of reevaluate. It's always good to reflect sometimes. Yeah. And say, here are my goals. How long do I want to play? Anyway, do you have an idea? How long do you want to play? Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah. I've never had a time. I've never, I hear Tom Brady say, I want to play till I'm 45 or, things like that. I don't have an age. All I know is I love doing all the work that's required to be great. I love the weight room. I love the training. It's kind of like being an architect. You're building your body in a certain way, and your body's always changing. So there's always new challenges. And that's certainly more evident this year than any year for me. So I'm excited to, continue to find a new way, find some small, some slight edges, small wins, try to, find any way I can to, get myself back to where I've been the previous, 11 years. And so I'm excited.
You're using some words and some semantics now that we need to explain to the listeners, because the next guy I want to introduce to everyone is a guy that was a huge influence in our lives, Frank Gansz Sr. Frank Gansz Sr., to the listeners who don't know, was a special teams coach in the National Football League for a very long time. He also had a head coaching stint with the Kansas City Chiefs, but where he really made his dough, if you will, and where he made his biggest impact was as a special teams coach. He was special in so many ways, and he had Frankisms. He had the sayings, small wins, and lots of things about technique and mechanics and the specifics of the craft, which resonated with me. I know it resonates with you because we are analytical and methodical, and that's at least how I think a lot.
Yep.
And so to me, Frank, I had my best season with Frank in Atlanta in 1995. And he, I think the one thing that Frank was able to do to players, with players, was establish a tremendous amount of trust. And I'm going to say something, it's going to make you chuckle, but powerful, productive relationships based on powerful, productive communication. That was, in a nutshell, Frank Gansz. And he was able to be tough, be demanding. This was a high performance business. He loved that word. He loved to make analogies to the military. Tell me what he meant to you. He elevated my game to a whole nother level. Not only on the field, but off the field. But I know that he made a huge impact at SMU, which was your school, with June Jones, a huge impact there. And it was just a tremendous loss when he left us.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was a godsend for me. I had him for my final year of college. And, I was thinking about coming out early, and I got to meet with him. And within 15 minutes, I fell in love with him. I'll never forget that first meeting. I was so excited to play for him. And you know what? He never once told me how to punt a ball. Now, he wasn't happy with me as a field goal kicker all the time. He coached me up on that all the time, but he never technically really coached me how to punt. He really taught me how to be a professional. I think what he did is he saw a very hyper motivated, hyper focused kid that, there were a lot of missing pieces to how to go about attacking each day. and specifying those things, like we talked about, small, specific, sometimes unreasonable commitments.
And demands.
The demands were the highest. And
Oh.
hey, the job demanded more. It demanded all you had and more. And anybody that's played for him is kind of like a fraternity. I think anybody that played for him or coached with him or even had any sort of relationship with him, there's a bond amongst us. It's almost like a little club, and no one's prouder. No one's prouder to be in any club but that club. I mean, that it's just a bond it's hard to, I feel sad for the people that came after me that didn't get the chance to meet him, that didn't get the impact that he was going to provide. And let me tell you, it's actually created a stronger bond between so many of my college teammates and ourselves that we stayed in touch because we all had that experience together and it was special. And so look, it's slowed in the past number of years, but I remember the first half of my career, almost every week, somebody'd come across the field and shake my hand after the game and say, "My good man, you're making Frank proud," or something like that. Because they all knew I was kind of his last student. He passed away the day after I got drafted.
Yeah.
And
wow,
I don't know.
I didn't realize it was the day after you got drafted.
Yeah, I got drafted, elation, and 30 seconds later I was crying and I literally went straight to the hospital to sit with Barb in the hospital room.
Wow.
Anyhow, all I can say is just incredibly grateful. I have felt a good pressure to, I'm standing on his shoulders, and I felt, I know that anybody that knew Frank knew that I was one of his pupils, and I felt this pressure to deliver on things that I found out after he passed away, that he told the Saints about me and why they should choose me. And I'll be forever grateful.
When I say esprit de corps, you say?
Gung-ho. Oh, yeah. If you give me the clap, I'm going to duck down. So, I don't want that full water bottle getting chucked at me.
So Frank would have a lot of metaphors, a lot of analogies to war, to battles. I looked forward to Saturday night before the games. He would stand up there in front of the team and talk about a specific battle, or the SAS that invaded the Falkland Islands, or Patton's Fifth Army and the Battle of the Bulge. And we left yesterday, and esprit de corps. And when he would clap, you better duck because live bullets are flying.
That's right.
So there's so many Frankisms. There's so many things. And to your point, he was demanding, and he was very consistent. That's what I liked about him. It didn't matter if it was a Monday or Wednesday or game day, or if it was off seat. He was 10 minutes, or he was 15 minutes early, and I'll never forget the sound, where he would go, he would have the backpack, the backpack with the amplifiers, and he would have the headphone, the Simmons headphone, I'm thinking we're getting ready to do aerobics here. No. This is special teams at the highest level, and he would conduct the special teams differently than I had ever been a part of.
And listen, I've seen coaches try to mimic that, and it doesn't go over as well. There's only Frank could have pulled that off. His voice was so commanding. Mm-hmm. He commanded your best every day. Mm-hmm. There were no days off when it came to your attention and preparation. And listen, what a blessing, to experience that.
Yeah.
And to be held to that standard was just, I think deep down, everybody wants that. If you're worth your salt, people want that. People want to be held accountable. And look, he wasn't attacking people. He was attacking problems. Anything that stopped us from getting to the highest level. And my head came up early on my field goal kicking pretty often. So I felt attacked. My head was getting attacked by Frank quite often. But anyways, very grateful for it.
He would go, and a practice session would be like, okay, punt team. And then Thomas, you would run in there, and he'd go to kickoff return, field goal. And it would be a specific stage, 32-yard line, left hash, 2 minutes left in the game. We're down by 3, and
Yep.
you would go in and execute that specific situation. Then he would go to an onside kick, hands team. I mean, he was all over the place within the 6 phases of the game, of the special teams game. And it made it very dynamic. You had to be on your toes. You couldn't be over there sleeping or not paying attention. You
Yep.
get caught. I mean, it was a high performance business, and he kept practice that way. And I think that's why we responded in the games.
Absolutely, because you had been there before,
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite sayings of his was, if you want to fight in the North Atlantic, you got to train in the North Atlantic. And we heard about back in World War II, they were training down the Bahamas, and we were getting our butts kicked by the Germans. So they moved that base up to the Northeast and started training up there. And all of a sudden we started to have a little more success. And so I really loved that. And I remember whenever I got to my pro day, my senior, after my senior season was over, and the North Atlantic showed up on my pro day, and I was ready for it. We had a wind advisory in Dallas. It was gusting to 50 miles an hour. And I extended my warm up as long as possible. And finally, one of the scouts said, "Son, I don't think it's going to get any better." And I said, "Yes, sir, I'm ready." And you know what? It was a hard day to be consistent, but also, I had prepared for that, and so I wasn't defeated by it. And I think my mentality and the way I attacked that day, and didn't hang my head after a tough punt or something like that. It was cool. I felt totally prepared. And honestly, I haven't had a situation in a game in the NFL. I haven't handled every single one of them perfectly, because you gain experience over time. But I didn't feel like I've ever been unprepared for a play in the NFL. And that's because when it's windy outside, I want to punt into the wind. I want it to be challenging in practice. I don't care what I look like, or, if it's, I don't want to script for success. I want to be challenged every day. And then, there's nothing worse than being in the back of the end zone, protecting a 3-point lead, and your heels are on the back of the end zone with a wind in your face and not feeling very good. And there's nothing better than being back there saying, "Hey, I know I'm going to get this done right now." And so I've just had that mental edge, I think, with a lot of those situations throughout my career.
Well, let me take you to a place and a time where you were challenged, and it came at a big moment, and it may have gotten your heart rate up a little bit. You were drafted in the 5th round in 2009. It was a special year for the Saints. You win the Super Bowl. You have a fantastic year. And at that time, you probably didn't know that you were going to be considered the greatest punter in Saints history. But that's where we're sitting right now, you being the greatest punter in Saints history and one of the elite guys in the history of the game. So you need to know that up front.
Well, thank you.
But I'm going to take you to the Super Bowl. We're in Miami, and it's halftime, and Sean Payton comes up to you.
Sorry, my blood pressure's going up just thinking about it. Go ahead. Keep going.
Sean comes up to you right at the beginning of halftime, and I had him on the show last week. He said, yeah, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have told Thomas right away. He had 30 minutes to think about this. He goes, I'm calling the onside kick. You can take it from here. It was a beautiful play. It was a defining moment in the season, in the game. It changed the whole tide of the situation against the Colts. But did you wish that he had waited? What were you thinking?
I mean, in the moment, I wished. I was pissed at him at first because I didn't want to have to sit on it all halftime, but I'm glad he did. Honestly,
let's explain first of all to the listeners what we're talking about.
Well, look, when you come in at halftime of the Super Bowl, you don't have a 13-minute break between kickoff, the end of the first half and the start of the second. You've got like a 35-minute break because of all the glitz and glam, the halftime show, the performance and all that. And so it's a long, long period of time. It's something you haven't done. And so I think, honestly, he did it for himself, because I think if he'd have sat there and thought about it long enough, he wouldn't have called it. But he just had it in his mind. We're going to go for it. He told the defense. He walked through, bust through the locker room. I'm sitting there feeling like, hey, I survived the first half of the Super Bowl. I feel my second punt was a really, really nice ball. We downed at the 4-yard line. And so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And he just walked by me in passing and just said, hey, we're running ambush to start second half. There was no conversation.
An ambush is a surprise onside kick for those of you guys that don't remember that play.
Yeah, which had never been done. And I had never kicked off before that season. And I'd never hit an onside kick before. And it wasn't one of those like ones that you can kind of square up your hips and hit a nice end over end onside. No. This is one of those that you could look like a fool if you just a little bit off. And so anyways, you know, my heart rate immediately spikes through the roof. And I already look like a spaz at halftime. I don't take my helmet off again and during games, even at halftime. I just keep it on always. Wow. It was a thing I actually learned with Frank. I just always wanted to be locked in. No matter what was going on, I don't want to ever be caught off guard. So I'm sitting there as a rookie with my helmet on for 30 minutes at halftime, just sitting in my locker. And every now and then John Carney walked by, our kicker that was turned coach. Yeah. Timo, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. And I am panicking. And I finally just said, you know what? I'm going to let myself go through every negative situation. I got to get it out. So I'm thinking, okay, there's a billion people watching this. If I screw this up, New Orleans will hate me forever. You know, just thinking about every negative repercussion of this not working. Jesus. And not to keep, you know, talking about Frank too much and taking over the show, but I had a picture of Frank in my locker that my rookie year. I just felt like he was with me that year. And I was walking around and he had this acronym ACDC. And basically the acronym stood for the more aggressive team normally wins. And so I pacing back and forth and I just looked up at him and I thought, well, this is pretty fucking aggressive. And I chuckled, I laughed and I finally relaxed. And then I thought, you know, every time coach called us in practice, it was just like Frank would do. We didn't have it on the script. He'd just say kickoff team. He wanted to catch me off guard, run it in practice. And every single time he did that, I hit it well. And I said, you know what? Every single time we did it. And then all of a sudden I thought, man, if we go get this, we're going to win this game. Mm-hmm. And then by the time I went out for halftime, I was still incredibly anxious and nervous, but I was excited about running it. I was positively charged to do it. And I was literally selling the Kool-Aid to anybody I could. Pat McAfee was drafted that year. He was the Colts punter and kickoff specialist. And I'm talking trash to him saying, hell, tell your returner not to even come out because I'm bashing this through the end zone. You know, you can't even practice an onside kick. So my adrenaline's flowing. I'm hitting balls almost into the bleachers. And
that's awesome.
I was selling it to anybody I could. And John Carney grabbed me right before I went out. And he always used to say, hey, Timo, 10%. And he grabbed me, turned me around, and he said, Timo, 1%. He knew I was just gassed up. And I got out there, I took my steps, and I had a little FG, Frank Gansz, written on my right heel. And I looked down and I said, Frank, man, I hope you're with me. And then honestly, I blacked out. I don't remember anything. I've seen the copy on TV, but I don't actually remember the experience.
Wow.
I just remember it just happened.
You executed a perfect onside kick. It became a scrum, which I don't think it was the plan. When I talked to Sean about it, he actually had you kicking the wrong way initially, and then he realized, no, we want to go towards our sideline. Yes. Because if there was a question of the result, at least it'd be on our sideline, and we would maybe affect the play somehow with enthusiastic banter, etc. So he did get that changed at the last minute. And let me tell you, man, you executed that thing beautifully. It was a scrum, but clearly our ball, Saints ball, and you guys did go down and score a touchdown. You know, Colts responded, but to me, it stole a possession away from the Colts, which when you have Peyton Manning over there, that's a good thing.
Yeah, look, it wasn't about, apart from any of that, it was just the mentality that we're going to go take this. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be dictated to. Whether we win or lose, we are going to go take this game. And I think once we got that ball, there was just no doubt. Like everybody just knew we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And man, I'm so fortunate to have had that happen to me as a rookie and had success because, you know, kicking is a unique deal. It's so mental.
Yes.
and you don't always feel your best. You don't always feel most confident. And
Oh.
some days it's about surviving.
Mhm.
Some days it's about hitting your B ball, you know?
Mhm.
And when you have those days and you don't feel as confident, and you can recall that and say, hey, in the biggest moment, when man measures man, I got it done. And
Yeah.
I've leaned on that for a long time in my career.
It's also about going to your happy place and going to a place of foundation where you really have ballast, where you really are able to objectively look at your craft and say, when I'm really good, this is what it looks like.
Yep.
Because when you're bad, to me, I always treated it like that was abnormal. That's a blip on the radar. I never
Yep.
thought that was a habit. My habit was dominant and positive, and that's where I mostly stayed, which kept me out of trouble long term.
Yep.
Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think mechanically, the thing I tried to do with punting, I have a unique way of doing things. I basically said, hey, the more my background was engineering in school, and basically, the more joints, the more cogs, the more pieces, the more things it can break.
Mhm.
And so I just remember thinking, any way that I can simplify the way that I punt, remove pieces, instead of being able to hit my A plus ball, maybe I can just hit an A ball.
Mhm.
But by doing that, I don't hit a lot of C's and D's.
Yeah.
And so I just remember, going back again, Frank, he just told me, he said, hey, if you can hit your B plus ball every time, you'll have a job for as long as you want in the NFL. That's how good you are. And so I just, I think it required leaving my ego. At an early age, I lost my ego, which was good for me. As some people takes a little longer, but I just lost my ego. And I said, you know what? I don't, they already knew that I could hit the A ball. They've seen that. That's kind of what gets you in the door is showing off your talent. But at the end of the day, it's about being able to be consistently steady. The coach knows what he gets every week, and if you can do that, you can play for a long time.
You're so right about that. And what I think, when I think about you, I think that you took your craft very seriously, but you didn't take yourself too serious. You were able to laugh and keep it light because you knew your base was strong. You knew that you had earned the right to belong and to play on Sunday.
Yeah.
And therein lies a great comfort, really, because we earn the right to play on Sunday during the week and the off season. It's a long process. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Uh, all the things that we say, one thing is saying it, another thing is doing it. Nobody worked harder than you, Thomas. And it pays off for you because it makes sense to you and it resonates with you. And you took ownership of that. And I think that's what's so beautiful about being a specialist. You really, if you don't take ownership of it and doubt starts to creep in, got a real problem. You're not going to be around at that position for a long time. And that's why you've been elite for a long time. One of the guys you mentioned is John Carney. I would like to hear your take on how he's been able to, because John Carney, to everybody knows who John Carney is, elite kicker in the history of the game, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, in my opinion, played at a high level for not sure how many years, 20 maybe?
I think he got 22.
22, come on.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing kicker in his own right for a long, long time, but also a really good teacher and mentor for you. What has he meant to you?
Well, again, kind of another godsend. My whole rookie year, he was with the team. He started the first 12 games of the season. That's actually how I got to kick off my rookie year. And he was excited about it because, he wasn't kicking too far at the end of his career. And so he knew if he could kick straight field goals and keep making kicks, he could stick around longer, and he did. And, I was very fortunate to kind of get a lot of wisdom. I got a quick education being with him day in, day out for those 5 months. He had just made the Pro Bowl with the New York Giants the previous year, and he had done that with Jeff Feagles. And Jeff Feagles is one of the great punters of all time. And that was fresh on his mind, working with Jeff. And so I kind of just got a bunch of little tidbits, ways of doing things, ways to think about things, day in, day out. And he was a very steady presence. And it was nice because we weren't competing with each other.
Yeah.
And so there was not sometimes there can be some hostility or it's just a different dynamic. He was truly there to teach me and to groom me. And to have that as a rookie, you couldn't ask for more. I mean, he was just such a calming, steadying presence. And look, we were cut from the same cloth. If anybody knows John, he's a weight room guy.
Man,
so
he loves to lift.
He also helped me lose my ego too with a few things in a weight room, because he was 20 years older than me, doing certain things better than me. And so that was helpful.
I want to talk about Drew Brees a little bit. Of course, recent announcement that he retired and going to NBC. What were your first impressions of Drew, and what was your relationship with Drew?
Well, look, when I came into the league, he was in his 8th or 9th year, I think 8th. And so I kind of came in when he was at his, still physically getting better and also with a ton of experience now. And so I kind of came in when he was, cooking with gas. He was just on fire, and to watch the way people responded to him. He made everybody around him better. That's what I just loved about him. He didn't verbally demand anything from anybody, but because he was the quarterback and he was the first one in, last one out, and his intensity of practice every single day was just so unique to be around. And he's one of many guys that I looked around, and as a young player, and you're trying to think about how am I going to stick around, and you look at the guys that are on second contracts, getting paid a lot of money, and they all have a similar set of qualities. Some are louder than others, but as far as their work habits and their professionalism, I'm very indebted to him, as many players are, for the stability that he's provided the organization for a lot of other people to stick around and have stability there. And then the other thing that I got a firsthand view at is kind of how to age gracefully, how to get better in certain areas when maybe your body can't, do some of the things you used to be able to do, but you get more efficient in certain ways. And I would argue with you that he had some of his very best years at the end of his career, and that's an amazing thing. And so being able to watch him deal with physical, difficulties as he got older and certain injuries, and still come out and just play at the highest level. Just very cool to watch that.
Do you have a favorite Drew story where he did something, said something where you go, man, that's so Drew, that's so Drew Brees, and yeah, that makes so much sense, and wow, that's so motivating, or that's funny? Anything you can share?
No, I mean, I would say, I don't know if it's funny, but I mean, I always thought Drew was kind of like a robot. Like he just, you say some players or even coaches, anybody that's in any line of work that requires a lot. Like if you don't really love it, you'll tell on yourself, right? Because over time, if you don't love doing it, you're not going to, when it gets hard, you're not going to be able to persevere. And the guy was just so steady and consistent. Like if you wanted to kill him, it would have been so easy. You knew exactly where he was at every Monday. At this time, he was doing this. I guess I think back to my rookie year. There was a certain place on Fridays that he did his ab work. And I happened to be standing in that spot doing some other bit of work in the weight room. And he came over and he said, "Hey, rookie, I'm going to need that spot." And like, he was just almost OCD, right? He needed to be like a superstitious. He needed to be exactly here doing exactly this way. And he was just so regimented. And like I said, just being able to view that and watch him be, never a day off with his preparation and the way he did things. And it's not a surprise of why he was so consistent over his whole career.
You mentioned superstitions. Did you have any quirky, you said you wear your helmet in the locker room the whole time. That would be a quirky thing to me. I mean, I don't know if that's superstitious or not, but that's a habit for sure. That's a routine.
Yeah, I mean,
and any other quirky stuff you can share?
I don't have anything. I mean, I guess one thing you could think about is my first game in college that I really had a good game, where it was like, wow, that was special. My grandparents came and they brought brownies to the game, and
Hey, who doesn't love brownies, man?
Right. And I was starving at halftime, and I ate 2 brownies, and I came out, and I made a 50-yard field goal, and I had 2 punts inside the 10. And of course, everybody said it must have been the brownies after the game. And so from that day on, since my sophomore year of college, so I'd have been about 20 years old, I've gotten brownies for every game of my career since then. So
Awesome.
whether that's grandparents, my parents, or my wife and kids, somebody's making the brownies. And now I don't eat them at halftime, but it's part of the tradition, I guess you could say. And everybody, when I talked to Mickey in the office as I was getting released, he said, "We're going to expect the brownies week 1 next year." Anyways, I said, I'll make sure they're delivered. Don't worry.
I love that. I think that's a great routine, man. People make them, you eat them. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Hey, I want to put a bow on Drew Brees. How big a blow now? I know you're not with the team anymore, but how big a blow to the Saints is this? And who steps up next? Is it Taysom Hill? Is it Jameis Winston? Is it a third guy? Do you have a feeling or a thought on that?
No, all I would say is that, if anybody thinks they're going to go find Drew Brees 2.0, you're mistaken, because there is no other Drew Brees. There's just not. The other thing I'd say is I've had great experiences with both Taysom and Jameis. Taysom I've been very fortunate to have him on our punt team for the past number of years. He provides us the ability to mitigate some risk, because teams are just play a little more conservatively than they otherwise probably would. And so I've gotten to know Taysom. He's a phenomenal human being. And I'm just happy for any success he has. His leadership is, a lot of times players can, you're asked to do things to protect your quarterback that maybe the quarterback would be unwilling to do if the roles were reversed. That's not the case with Taysom. He's gone down and busted wedges. He'll do anything that's required, and he's capable of doing anything that's required. And so I think when you're asked to do things to protect him, guys have a different level of investment in a guy like that, because they know that he would do the same and has done the same. And so that's one thing I'd say about Taysom. And then the other thing, Jameis, he's in the division for a long time, and everybody kind of bagged on him because he was in the division. And then we talked about eating the W and how funny that was. And Jameis came in this year, and I got the pleasure of working out with him most Mondays. We worked out together, and I love the guy. I can see he's charismatic. Guys respond to him. He's got a unique leadership style as well, and he loves football. He loves football. And the thing I think that I would say is special about him, he's authentic. I've never met anybody like Jameis, and he's authentic. And I think guys respond to that. And so, no matter what happens, those guys have both, invested their lives into doing what they're doing, and they've drawn the respect of the team. And so, I'm excited for whoever ends up getting that job, or however it ends up happening. I'll be pulling for both those guys.
Since the Super Bowl in 2009, you were part of some really good Saints team who kind of disappointed in the playoffs. And I asked Sean Payton this, I asked Cameron Jordan this, different answers, but kind of the same answers. I would like to get your thoughts on that. Why didn't the Saints go deeper in the playoffs? I know it was some heartbreaking losses at the very end, and it can go either way. One was a no call, one was a miracle up in Minneapolis, and then kind of a underperforming against the Vikings, the Vikings that came in and beat you in the first round. So in your mind, having been one of the leaders and a captain on the team, how do you wrap your head around the fact that you were so talented in all positions and you didn't go deep enough?
Well, look, I mean, it's hard to every single one of those things, the expectation that was what we were going to go on and continue moving forward. And I think what makes the game really special is that it's just like some of the work habits we talked about. You can't take anything for granted, because you can do everything right and the ball just bounces the wrong way, right? There are some things that are If you're so dominant that those little breaks don't matter, but in this game, it's a game of inches, and every little detail matters. And I think as my career went along, I've learned to appreciate being just a part of the history of the game.
Hmm.
Obviously we'd love to have, I think we easily could have 2 more Super Bowls. And we don't. And that's tough, but I don't personally think of those teams any differently. The team in 2011, that was a championship team,
Mm-hmm.
and I have relationships with those guys, and there's a bond that's a little different about that team, even though we didn't go do it all. That was a championship team. And then, when we lost to the Rams, that was a championship team.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just didn't happen. And, I don't want to rehash that one, but, it's something you kind of, you move forward from, but you kind of don't ever get quite over it, because you just know the opportunities are so, limited. And shoot, I've been on a team where we've had quite a few opportunities, which has been special. But I think I just have learned to appreciate being part of the history of the game. And that's what's so pure about this game. It's kind of like a March Madness. You get one shot. You don't get best 3 out of 5 or best 4 out of 7. And just what makes it special. And it does make the Super Bowl that we did win together really, really sweet.
I want to ask you about Alvin Kamara, because he's one of my favorite players. He's very special. He's explosive, and it's so unpredictable. He can turn a 5-yard play into a touchdown for 70 yards. When did everybody in the building realize that Alvin Kamara was going to be special?
I don't know how to answer that. I would say, look, Alvin's been a locker next to me my whole career, or his whole career.
Cool.
And so I've spent quite a bit of time talking with him. He's a unique guy. His physical look isn't for everybody, and he doesn't give a damn. He's truly comfortable in his own skin, and he's himself. He's authentic. I think one of the blessings that he's had in his life is that, he didn't have that smooth road in college, right? He had some issues. He had to move around, transfer. He didn't feel like he was used well in certain places, whatever. But he doesn't, it's not like he's been riding high the whole time and doesn't appreciate where he's at. I think he's got a tremendous appreciation for where he's at, how special it is. And I couldn't be happier for him. The team has leaned on him heavily for the past number of years. And, I think I remember when he was in his 2nd year, me and Fast Freddie McAfee were talking on the sidelines, just watching the offense go. And he did something, and we both looked at each other like, do people realize what they're watching right now? I think he's got the makings of a Hall of Fame career, if he can stay healthy and just continue being who he is. And he's another guy I'll pull for forever.
Yeah, he's fun to watch, and one of those explosive people, unpredictable, but yet very colorful. And I read somewhere that after the games, he would walk home and hang out with the fans on the way to his place somewhere downtown. Is that true? He would just kind of walk home and.
Yeah. We started giving him a little gripe for that this year with COVID happening, saying, hey, you better, limit your exposure here. But yeah, he does that. I know Teddy Bridgewater would ride his bike home after games when he was with us as well. So, I think it's great when people do that. I think, it's been talked about a lot for me anyways in the past week, but, people that embrace the people here in New Orleans, people that, can make a genuine attempt to connect with the people in the city, man, it's just appreciated by all the fans. And look, New Orleans isn't for everybody, but for the ones it is for, man, there's nothing better.
I agree. I've always enjoyed the city. I've always felt part of the city, although I don't live there full time anymore. I go and visit 6-7 times a year. It's just, once it's in you, you know what it means to miss New Orleans.
That's it.
And miss her each and every day. That's for sure. Hey, Tom, I'd like to play the name game with you if you don't mind. I'll say a name, and whatever comes to mind, it doesn't have to be a lengthy answer. It can be a one-word answer or a sentence.
Okay.
And I'd love to get your opinion on these guys that we haven't really talked about yet. Your teammate at SMU and also in New Orleans, Emanuel Sanders.
I'd say gritty, and his practice reps is like a Super Bowl. No matter what day of the week it is, diving for everything.
Wow. June Jones, who was your head coach at SMU, your final season. June Jones.
He was needed. When he came in, he treated everybody like men. We had very few rules. Basically said, "Hey, don't make me look like a fool, and you won't have handcuffs on you. We're not going to micromanage your life here." But he was a breath of fresh air when he came in, and also a man without much ego. He let Frank run the meetings, and so I'm very appreciative. He was the one that said, "Hey, don't go out early. Trust me, you want to spend this year here with Frank." So I'm indebted to him for that.
Sean Payton.
Demanding, aggressive, and I'll say when the team's at its best, the team has the personality of Coach Payton. They let it all hang out. They don't care who doesn't like it. There's a swagger that everybody can feel.
Wil Lutz.
Brother. He's got a chance to be really special if he just sticks with all the things he's done. It's been an honor to be teammates with him.
Zach Wood.
Guy's a fighter. Works his ass off. I've enjoyed mentoring both him and Will. And those guys are going to continue to do great things. And now they'll be kind of stepping into some mentor roles for, whoever follows me.
Johnny Hecker.
Johnny Hecker, stealer of Pro Bowls. Johnny, I think the thing I love when Johnny's playing at his best, he has fun. You can feel it. He's sprinting down there, and got a lot of respect for Johnny. I've been first alternate about 7 times in my career, and I think 5 of those times were to him. So I've got a lot of respect for him.
Michael Thomas.
Can't guard Mike. He's the closest thing I've seen portrayed to Michael Jordan from the 30 for 30 docs with Jordan. He's just wired differently.
Cam Jordan.
Child. Lovable child. Always having fun.
Love it. Deontay Harris.
Electric. I'll say this. I've played against so many good punt returners, and I don't think I've never seen one better than him.
Special. Reggie Bush.
Man, that's electric right there as well. I just remember him being a A-list whenever I was a rookie. Kim Kardashian's coming down to the players' tent, and I was like, "What is going on here? There's cameras everywhere." He was great.
Fast Freddie.
Man, that guy's been a mentor to me. People don't know Fast Freddie. My rookie
How so? Tell me.
My rookie year, I was inconsistent, like a lot of rookies can be, and just trying to survive. And we'd taken our team picture, and the picture was up, and he said, "Thomas, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Man, I'm just trying to make it to next week." He said, "You'll be here once all these guys are gone. Trust me." He said, "I've been around a lot of players. You're going to be here for a long, long time." And Freddie's not one to give any sort of fake encouragement. And so that kind of meant a lot that he said that. And I would say Freddie's family.
That's great. Bundle of energy and passionate, and
I never seen Freddie have a bad day ever.
you're right. He keeps it real too, man.
Yep.
He keeps it real, which is really refreshing and needed.
Yeah, he's not afraid to say what needs to be said.
No.
And he does it in a way that it's almost hard to be mad at him. You know, he knows how to present it. He's got a good way with everybody in the locker room.
Thomas, I want to finish by giving you some space to talk about your foundation. What you give will grow. Where did you come up with that name?
You already know the answer to that.
Yeah, but our listeners don't.
Another Ganszism. That was what you give will grow, what you keep you lose. And man, that meant something different to everybody. You know, there's different ways to think about that. And again, like I said, when I came to the league, I just remember feeling this pressure to make Frank right about the things he said about me and how he sold me to different teams. And I just knew that one day I wanted to do something that would give me the opportunity to talk about him and the impact he had on me and kind of pay that forward. And, you know, he always used to say, we stand on the shoulders of those who come before us. And I'm standing on his shoulders. And, you know, it's kind of like a drop in the lake makes all these ripples. And, you know, you don't know the effect of all those, but you know there is an effect. And you just kind of keep pushing forward to do things. And it's been a fun experience to do it. You know, I think I never thought I would have had the support that I've ended up getting related to the foundation. And it's kind of pressed me to kind of keep my foot on the gas. It's been a little difficult this past year with COVID because we do so much with, you know, there's a lot of socializing, whether it's fundraisers or events for a lot of children that are kind of immunocompromised. And so it hasn't even been a you know, question as to whether we're going to do some of these. We just had to hold off. And so we're looking forward to doing things down the road. But it's been great to be a part of it and have an organization where, you know, we've been able to be reacting and be, you know, we've been able to react when things have been needed. Right. And so whether it was when there was floods in Baton Rouge or there was, you know, we started putting on a prom a few years back for kids that are all dealing with cancer and blood disorders. When there's been a need that we feel like we can move the needle on, we've tried to do that. And like anything, you know, the more you give, the more it grows and it comes back to you. And it's been awesome. It's awesome for my wife. It's awesome for my kids to be along with us, to see things that, you know, to see that there's different ways that people live and there's different ways that people suffer. And hopefully instead of me telling them how good they have it, they'll be able to see for themselves. And, you know, hopefully it'll allow them to at least have a little perspective on how privileged they are as they get older.
I'd like to finish by you telling the story from the 2017 divisional playoff game in Minnesota where you tore rib cartilage. And here's a glaring example of how people united and where you as a showed a beautiful example of perseverance, class, and doing the right thing in a very tough game where the fans of Minnesota responded to you and it became pretty powerful. Do you mind telling that story?
Yeah, I mean, basically, first punt of the game, I hit a ball that didn't quite turn over. It faded back in the middle of the field, gave the returner a chance. He got through, and I went and made the tackle on him. And when I hit the ground, I kind of whipped around, hit the ground just perfectly in the wrong way, and felt like I cracked a rib, and I just couldn't breathe. I mean, I could not breathe. It was excruciatingly painful. And so, you know, I guess on the sideline, you could tell that I was struggling as the game was still going on. And I don't know if you remember the punter for the Vikings back in the day, Greg Coleman.
Yes.
He's an African-American punter, wonderful human being.
Yes.
He's on the sideline doing radio for the game. And he just sees me where I'm at, where the kicking net is on the side. He goes, "Hey, Thomas, I hope you're okay." And I said, "Man, it feels like I broke my ribs." And of course, not thinking of it, he's on the radio and he's the source. Comes out a few minutes later. Source is Thomas Morstead's broken his ribs. So now it becomes a story throughout the game. And every time I went out to punt, all the work that goes through your core up through that, it just was like a lightning rod hitting me. And so anyways, I got a shot in the second quarter. That didn't take. I got spread out at halftime and they hit it right the second time. So the second half was at least bearable to finish the game out. And, obviously we had the last second play where they scored a touchdown. And at the time you still had to, go out and do the extra point, even if it wasn't going to affect the result of the game. And, I remember loitering out on the field for like 6 or 7 minutes, waiting for everything to get cleared because I knew that was the rule. And apparently a bunch of guys either didn't know or didn't care and headed in. And so at some point there was literally nobody left on the field. And I said, I guess it's over. And so I, jogged off the field and went into the locker room, and the referees were just coming out of the locker room and they just said, "Hey, we need 11 guys. We just got to get 11 guys." And so I just turned back around. I mean, half the guys had all their gear off, pads off, in towel, waiting to get in the shower. The season's over.
Wow.
So I just jogged back out. I wasn't trying to separate myself from the team or do anything like that. It just, I just said, all right, they need 11. And I just jogged back out. And, of course, Case Keenum's out here doing the old Viking chant. And I'm jogging out there, and I know Case, another great human being. And as I'm jogging by, he said, "Hey, Thomas, we're going to take a knee." And I said, "You better, because
Yeah.
I don't normally play defensive tackle here." And so I just remember getting down and the center looked at me like with a big grin, like wishing it was a real play, I think.
Jeez.
And
did you have 11?
What's that? I think we only ended up with maybe eight or nine. But anyhow, somebody thought it was cool that I had kind of persevered through the game. I had a huge punt at the end of the game. It was a big, I was proud of after kind of how everything had gone. And then coming back out and showing good sportsmanship. And I think also, the Super Bowl was in Minnesota that year. And so they were a step away from being in the Super Bowl and hosting it. And I think there were some fans that felt like, man, it'd just be good karma for us to do something good for this Saints player that showed some good sportsmanship. And so, man, it caught fire. I mean, I think we got up to about $5,000, and I found out about it, and I just said, "Hey, appreciate all the Vikings fans. I'm going to make sure we pay this back to a hospital in Minnesota. The money should stay up where you guys are at." And I think that's what really media saw that, and that was viral. And by the end of it, we ended up writing a check for like $221,000 back to the child life department in Minnesota Children's. And honestly, it was kind of a therapeutic 3 weeks from there to the Super Bowl, dealing with all that. And it was a good thing. Sean Payton even made a big donation. So that was cool. Had some teammates support it as well. But that's definitely one of those things that happened that, you'll never forget.
It's such a wonderful affirmation of when people pull together and when somebody motivates and inspires, good things happen. And I don't know if this was a Frankism, but it could have been. What a lot a little is. What a lot a little is. And, I feel that with how you live your life. 1% at a time, what a lot of little is. You started humble beginnings, didn't know where this thing is going to end up. We still don't know, but I want you to know I love you, and I trust that you're going to continue this journey with the same amount of passion and energy that you've shown so far. And when it's all said and done, when your adventure is over, and when this train finally stops and you decide, hopefully, that it stops, you will be known as not only one of the greatest punters in the history of the game, but one of the greatest human beings. So I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate the encouragement, and just hearing your story. I already knew kind of how your history had, ended in New Orleans and how you went on, and you end up being in 2 different Ring of Honors. I don't know how many players have done that. But it's nice to hear that somebody's been through a unique, what feels like a unique experience, and felt like kind of a little down, and then all of a sudden, hey, like you said, change is inevitable, and it's how you handle it, how you react to it, and you're able to not only rejuvenate, but sometimes you have to morph. You got to change as well with the game changes, and I'm looking forward to doing that, and I'm excited. I'm still chasing you. I've had that picture of you up in the Saints facility my whole career, and I've just tried to kind of be the Morten Andersen of punters. And so I'm just very grateful for the encouragement and having the relationship that we have. And so thank you.
I'm here for the duration, brother, whatever you need. And I thank you so much for coming on Great Dane Nation. It was a pleasure, brother.